Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Werner Bock. I live here in Pettigodiac. I immigrated here in 1969 from the old country, from Germany, and had great hopes. But I wasn't aware what was the reason why they called the Maritimes the poor, underprivileged maritime provinces. But slowly over the years I got an awakening and I got to recognize what was the reason that a region that at one time was the most prosperous part of Canada suddenly, say about 60, 70 years ago, became the poor, underprivileged maritime provinces. And as I say, my life has been full of surprises ever since. A lot of the surprises were not the surprises on the nice side, and I came to recognize what has been done to the people in this region because I experienced it firsthand as an immigrant. And if there shall be any kind of a hope for the young generation, I think people have to start waking up and come out of their complacency and start taking the helm of their own future again, control of their own future again. Anyway, stop with all this introduction. Let's come to the purpose for this interview. About 2.5 years ago, I got an order to appear in court, and the accusation was that I did not provide my animals, in this case beef cattle, cows and calves, with sufficient food, with sufficient water, and with sufficient medical attention. I have collected over the years enough evidence to rebut this all, but this is the last futile attempt by a corrupt government and its agencies here to finally get me out of the picture. When nothing else works anymore, Werner has been too persistent for such a long time, so they figure this is one way how we finally get him out of there. And I recognized over the years that the same dirty tricks have been pulled off on many of the maritimers here. And they have been victimized by what I'm calling here maritime mafia, where some of the most hideous crimes have been committed on people, on their possessions. They've committed murders, they've committed anything you can think of, and even more than you can't even, a normal human being can't even think of. But I guess we can come close to the last days, and we better start waking up. As I say, my trouble started up in 1975 when suddenly some of my animals died with symptoms of poisoning. It was covered up by the local veterinarian, and then by the provincial veterinarian, and by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And in order to get me to shut up, because I approached the thing in an unconventional way, fought the battle in an unconventional way, I was being approached by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, by two high-ranking officers. What do you think how it would make us look when you find all those things out and we don't? I answered them, I understand your image is already pretty scratched anyway, and in order to maintain law and order, the image of the authorities has to be maintained. And I had full confidence that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police would do the right thing. But after 38 years being on the firing line and being at the receiving end of some of the most hideous hate crimes, I came to the conclusion this Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they are not all what they are cracked up to be. They've covered up so many crimes in this country, and what I found out, a lot of those crimes I didn't even have a clue about. And they are true to their history. They keep covering it up, going on musical rights, and pretending to the rest of the world that they are the super cops and that they are the last remaining guardians of freedom and justice in the world. People wake up. As I say, I made in 2011, I made a documentary, Farmer's Ordeal. It has been since then on the internet, and the world is paying attention. And plus my earlier documentation, they're being picked up in other YouTube sites. And one of them is Monarch Project, Torture of Innocent Men, Women, Children and Animals. Moment. Can you wait for a moment?
Yeah.
I think I'm getting too far out.
Mm-hmm.
So
let's just focus right on the trial in 2011. Did you put out the video before or after you were charged?
Oh, the video was maybe in I made it there in late 2010 and in early 2011, before I was being charged. In early 2011, a friend of mine in British Columbia, he posted the video Farmer's Ordeal. He posted it on the internet. And as I say, it's not, it hasn't got millions of views, but it's in that YouTube site, it has now surpassed 10,000 views. And since my first appearance, since my appearance on the 13th of September 2013, where there was an embarrassing situation being created for the judiciary, the corrupt judiciary here in New Brunswick. Other friends, they posted it on the internet, and in a couple of sites it has accumulated another 3,000 views. And this Monarch Project, where some of my pictures were documented, what caused the death of over 330 cows and calves on my farm, and the technology that had been used by the criminals, where that had been posted in 2009 on the internet. Some of those pictures, they had been posted on the Monarch Project, Torture of Innocent Men, Women, Children and Animals. This YouTube site has now over 323,000 views. And I guess that's not chicken feed. And this is what I figured right from the beginning, when I encountered this corruption and this evil. For my own life insurance, and to get the word out, make my fellow men aware of the criminals and the monsters that are living among us, and they've been getting away with murder now for many decades. I figured shout it from the housetop, and in a way I think it was a good policy, and I fulfilled my duty toward my fellow men. But there in the spring 2011, like it happened for the previous 18 years, every time after I got the animals through the hard winter and the conditions were getting pleasant again, those criminals had to fulfill their annual quota of killing, on the average at least 20 animals within a month and a half. And it's well documented the cause of death of the animals. I did many autopsies, and quite a few YouTubes had been made about it, and I did the research documenting the cause of death of the animals, and most of the deaths was being contributed to the criminal use of directed energy devices or weapons like lasers and masers. A technology that has been around for over half a century. And one of the most deadly uses of that technology was by using very specific frequencies and modifying the atmospheric air. And air that normally maintains life, by modifying the nitrogen and the oxygen in the air, making it to a deadly, to a lethal gas. That has been well documented in Farmer's Ordeal, in the documentary. That can be seen on the internet, and a person doesn't have to be a rocket scientist to understand it. But when in 2011, again, the killing spree started by the end of March until the end of April, I contacted the local RCMP and reported it again. Then a short while later I had a visit from 3 RCMP officers and Rebecca Louise Marshall from the provincial SPCA, and so I informed them about, showed them the documentation what caused the deaths of those animals, because in most of the animals I had done autopsies on. And then I said to them, if you want to make any kind of a fuss, you know, go ahead. Because I have, over the years I have accumulated enough documentation about the criminal use of those technologies of directed energy weapons. And but there comes something else in. For years, since 1975, the RCMP has been covering up those crimes. And in order to discredit me, they put out all kinds of rumors and false accusations. Upon false accusations, I was being put twice in the loony bin in 1975 and 76, and they have not stopped with it ever since, because the Royal Canadian Mounted Police got a lot of skeletons in the closet and a lot of crimes where the evidence what they've been covering up. It's not just only about deaths of animals, but it concerns the environmental Watergate, what has caused the demise of agriculture in this province of New Brunswick over the last 60, 70 years, where the successive provincial governments and their experts were complacent in and accomplices in those crimes, environmental crimes and those crimes to the animals. But it was not just only limited to the animals. The same technology has been used to put many of my neighbors into an early grave, or cause them lifelong health problems like heart attacks, lung cancer, and anything you name it. It's well documented in Farmer's Ordeal. But I did not expect that the provincial government and the Department of Justice and the RCMP would be so brazen of making up lies that I did not feed my animals, did not provide them with adequate water, and did not provide them with medical veterinary care since 2009. All those accusations had been disproven in court. For my first court appearance on the 11th of June in 2012, there was supposed to be a full-day trial. On short notice, a week before the trial, I got the notice that the full-day trial had been changed into a hearing if I can subpoena witnesses. I had, in sufficient time before the trial, I subpoenaed 3 RCMP officers, or members of the RCMP, 3 veterinarians, and the inspector from the SPCA. With the excuse that I did not use the right subpoena forms, Judge Jolene Richard, who happened to be the wife of Dominique Lebon, the local Liberal candidate, my witnesses were disallowed, only the witnesses that coincided with the witnesses of the Crown. They were veterinarian Dr. Charles Mallet, SPCA inspector, provincial SPCA inspector Rebecca Louise Marshall, and RCMP, member of the RCMP Tremblay, officer or member of the RCMP Tremblay. They were only allowed as witnesses, and my witnesses were being basically thrown out. I suppose they had used the wrong form. When I filed the subpoena, I asked the lady at the office if everything was all right. I was being reassured that everything was all right. And Judge Jolene Richard, she referred to a subpoena form, I think number 3. Later on, when I came back out of the courtroom, I went right to the judge's office and I requested subpoena form number 3, and I was being told we don't have that form. So I think it's high time that the court in Moncton, provincial court, that they get their act together. You know, driving people into court and they don't have the form, they don't have their whole act straightened out. You know, one should think a court complex that costs at least $70 million. You know, where ultimately the taxpayers have to pay for, that they should have those glitches by now. You know, that they should have them ironed out. But anyway, that was Judge Jolene Shah, and then she decided the next court appearance would be on the, I think it was the 25th of September 2012. And what a surprise, I wasn't dealing with the same judge anymore. Suddenly Judge Troy Sweet was presiding. He was the presiding judge. And on the 25th of September, the Crown presented their case. Then I questioned the 2 Crown witnesses that had appeared in court. And incidentally, the member of the RCMP, Tremblay, who had cooked up the story that I parked my machinery below the road in the patch in H&I to send a message to the aliens. That RCMP officer, I guess he was too chicken to appear in court. And when I demanded from the judge to look into this, I said, when I'm subpoenaed to appear in court and I don't show up, I will be brought in handcuffs. I asked to Judge Troy Sweet, are there different strokes for different folks? And basically I got no satisfying answer. But as I say, this whole trial, they bent and twisted the law whichever way they wanted, you know. And anyway, afterwards, after the Crown presented their 2 witnesses, Rebecca Louise Marshall, who basically identified herself as Rebecca Lewis, I brought that to the attention of the judge, and I said, isn't it duty of anybody who appears in court to give their full name? It again was completely ignored. So I presented the court with her card from the SPCA, and the name was listed Rebecca Louise Marshall. And it was with a telephone number, a contact number and everything, as the SPCA officer for Westmoreland and Westmoreland County. I think there were two more counties. But then I questioned Rebecca Louise Marshall about her accusations, and they were stated in the court forms, where she made recommendations about the medical treatment of the animals, about nutrition of the animals, and about evaluating the body score of the cattle that were in the pasture. I don't think she is qualified. What she afterwards, during the trial, she had to admit that she did not have any qualifications. She would refer to the experts, you know. But she made those accusations without referring to the experts. Then I questioned, cross-examined Judge Dr. Mallet about his expertise and it boiled down, his expertise was animal nutrition. But his statement was, written statement was, there were 40 animals in the pasture, they were in good shape, one was in a lesser shape, and 10 animals were dead. Now, the animals had all the same access to the same hay, to the same feed, to the same water. So, and I had done autopsies on nearly half of those animals that had died within 4 weeks, and I documented it. And the documentation was presented in court, which showed massive damage to the lungs, massive damage to the rumen of the animals that caused ultimate the death. I questioned Charles Mallet, and basically he did not have any answers. The answers he gave, they were not based on facts but on fictions. And as I say, it's documented in Farmer's Ordeal. I've seen that for so many years about what caused the death of the animals. I researched it. I consulted with the researchers who had done the research and whose research was published in PubMed, one of the most, if not the most reputable science publications in North America. And but here in New Brunswick, I think all the researchers they can come up with here, not just only here about what happened to the animals, and medical research and environmental research at the present time about shale gas and so. It seems to be second and third rate researchers that can't find a job anywhere else in the world. New Brunswick hires them here, the provincial government, because they always need enough scientific horse for hire to pull their agenda through. The next court appearance, basically I took the whole case of the Crown Prosecutor Erika Lalonde. I basically took it apart. He didn't have a leg to stand on. I presented the evidence of against the accusation of Rebecca Louise Marshall, that according to her statement, written statement, the last time I solicited the services of a veterinarian was in 2009, which was an outright lie, the same way as the other statements. I presented a bill from Dr. Justison in Sussex from 2011. I presented pictures of Andy St. Ange, the district veterinarian in Moncton, and Carl Dingy, together with my friend Marianne Hannon, who passed away 3 months later, then in the spring of 2010, in my driveway, where Dr. St. Ange and Dr. Dingy had performed autopsies on those animals to finally establish what was the cause of death. I had made one last attempt, to finally get a verified answer from the so-called highly paid professionals. And it was outright dismal. Another attempt was in 2010. Rebecca Louise Marshall, she took Marianne and me to the animal pathology lab from the Provincial Department of Agriculture in Fredericton, or just outside Fredericton, the experimental farm. And pictures were being presented where Marianne was then in 2010, was then in front of the pathology lab. That was another where after 2009, another evidence where after 2009 I still hadn't given up on seeking professional support. And the point I made in court, for a whole long time I compelled to solicit the services of a professional. When time and time they screw up. Andy St. Ange, about 7 or 8 years earlier, when I presented him with the evidence and about the use of directed energy devices where the animals had second and third degree burns, exterior burns. His answer was, we are not trained on it. And I answered him, pardon me, this technology has been around for at least the last 50, 60 years. Every profession has to do some upgrading. So do you, you know. And when do they ever catch up with the 21st century? They haven't even caught up with the 20th century, you know. It is outright scandalous. What kind of so-called professionals are getting paid courtesy of taxpayers' money? And I don't have the deep pockets that successive government have had, you know, about paying time and time for professional services, you know, and end up with nothing. You know, we beef farmers, we have been hanging on for the last, at least the last 10 years by the skin of our teeth. Here in Atlantic Canada, where we import over 90% of the beef, we have the highest beef, we have the lowest beef prices right across North America. On the average, it's about at least 30% lower than in the rest of the continent. A region where 10%, where over 90% of the beef is being imported. You know, and as I say, Agenda 21 has been a long time in the making right here in Atlantic Canada, at least for the last 60, 70 years, but people haven't caught on, and they bought this BS they were getting from the government and from the experts. Oh, we are the poor, underprivileged maritime provinces. It's a bunch of horseshit. Well, several times during the trial, the Crown prosecutor, he lied to Judge Troy Sweet when he claims that he did not know, for example, about the documentary Farmer's Ordeal, which he afterwards he sheepishly had to admit that in late 2011, early 2012, when I went to see him at his office there at the courthouse, and I gave him the documentary Farmer's Ordeal and asked him to pay attention to it, and then reconsider if he really wanted to go ahead with the trial. But he just was so brazen, you know, to against all the evidence to still go ahead with the trial. And anyway, next court appearance was on the 7th of December 2012, and I took the witness stand on my own behalf, presented the evidence folder numbered from 1 to 22 with points of evidence, and number 19 was on suggestion of Crown Prosecutor Egla Long, was being disallowed by Judge Troy Sweet. It was the publication in the PubMed about exposure to nitrogen oxide and ozone, high levels of nitrogen oxide and ozone, which was proven that especially the nitrogen oxide are a deadly gas. And ozone in high concentration is deadly too, because nitrogen oxide, it forms different forms of nitrogen oxide. They form nitric acid and plus some more things that are even more dangerous. That is, when we are dealing with, for example, with nitrogen trioxide, it releases a highly reactive oxygen molecule into the bloodstream, which leads to blood clots, embolies, leads to heart attacks. It can lead to strokes, and basically it can create all kind of dangerous situation in the body or deadly situation in the body. And the ordinary nitric acid is one of the most corrosive acids. It when it's been put on a sheet of steel, within hours it starts corroding the steel, and this is what I've been documenting, what it did to the lung tissue and to the rumen tissue of the animals and to the blood vessels of the animals. It led to aneurysm, massive hemorrhaging of the blood vessels, especially in the vital vital organs of the body, from heart to liver to lungs to kidneys and so on. And it led to massive corrosive damage to the rumen and to the digestive tract, and especially in rumen animals. Those chemicals, this chemical compound, it is a very powerful stimulant, especially in ruminant animals that depend on digestive bacteria for utilizing fiber in their diet. It kills the digestive bacteria. So no matter how much feed the animals get, they can't digest it anymore. Plus, combined with massive corrosive damage, when the animals survive it, they will rapidly lose weight, look like they have been starved to death. Plus, there is massive dehydration of the animals because of the severe damage to the rumen lining. So they can't absorb, they have a rapid fluid loss, and they cannot replenish that fluid loss with utilizing any kind of fluids, you know. So you, in extreme cases, you can have animals that lose up to 300-400 pounds within a few days, and animals that a week earlier, they were nice, in good shape, they looked, within a week, they can look like they've been starved to death. 7th of December 2012, I took the witness stand on my own, and I went through all the, we went through all the evidence folder, and but number 19, the publication permit was being disallowed. So I argued, made the argument with the judge and with the crown prosecutor when they requested that I had to supply the experts. I said, I understand, and it was being pointed out especially by Judge Jolene Richard, where she said, you don't have to prove you're innocent. The Crown has to prove that you are guilty. But I hear from other court appearances of other people, this seems to have been changed now, where the Crown prosecutors are more out to get people. That the people, the accused, have to prove they're innocent. Whereas the Crown doesn't have a leg to stand on. So they make up fictitious cases. They're completely out to lunch. But in order to safeguard their rear end, in order to get the audio CDs from the court appearance, I had to sign a form signed by Judge Troy Sweet that I cannot publish them or in any way or form transcribe them. And I argued that in court with Judge Sweet because I had encountered slander by mainstream media and distortion by mainstream media, by the CBC and by the Mountain Times and Transcript about this alien crap and so on. I argued with the judge, when I consider about suing those media outlets, I will need the court transcripts as evidence. And with this, there is my right is being stifled. I have to take this slander and I cannot fight back. This is against the Canadian Bill of Rights. It is an open courtroom. It's open to the public. The media is present. They can make up all their own stories, their own fiction. And I got no way of redressing it in a legal avenue. And I think this is high time that we got enough members of parliament, we got enough MLAs that they get off their butt and basically close those loopholes. Because they are not dealing the people, those loopholes, they are dealing a corrupt element within the judiciary. About this number 19, evidence number 19, I informed the judge and the Crown prosecutor that I even had contacted Dr. Bock, Dr. Richter and Dr. Menzel, several of those scientists whose research was published, and to make sure that I wasn't way out in left field with my conclusions, because I don't have a PhD by my name. And in my conversation with those scientists, I could give them even more information than what they had published. Because in their laboratory research, they were using just small rodents, mice or rats, you know. Whereas I had been documenting on larger mammals, you know. Yeah, basically on the 25th of June, the Crown prosecutor gave his summary, you know. And then I gave my summary and rebuttal. And at the conclusion, the Judge Sweet said, I will announce my decision on the 19th of September, you know. And I basically had blown them away, you know. They didn't have a leg to stand on, and what a surprise is then on the 19th of September about asking for bringing this Provincial Procedures Act 110, you know, into play. And I asked him, what does he base his decision? And it seems to me like they wanted to bring a dead horse to life again. Huh? But that section 110 can only be used at the onset of the trial or during the trial when there are any doubts about the mental competency of a defendant, you know, but not after the trial part was over, and it was over on the 25th of June 2013. That's when Judge Troy Sweet announced that on the 19th of September he would announce his decision, you know. And when I questioned him on the 19th of September on what he based his decision, his answer was basically, I had the feeling. So I said, Your Honor, we all have feelings. Your decisions have to be based on facts, and I got the right to know, you know. And I even commended him that at the onset of the trial that he assisted me, and where I stepped over the line, you know, not being familiar with the court procedures, that he basically guided me back, you know, and I appreciate this very much, and basically I respected the rules of the court as soon as I became aware of them, you know. And basically the judge wouldn't give any answers, and he ordered me. I said, unless you give me the reason, I refuse to obey by your order. I have the right to know, you know. And so he told the sheriff to take that man in custody, you know. And I didn't use any swear words, but I said to the judge, then, Your Honor, I had great hope in you, you know, and I wished you would have had the balls to do the right thing. But when I was being taken in custody in the court, I reminded the sheriff that my briefcase with the files was still sitting out in the pew there, you know, with the in the courtroom on the bench there, And that in the side pocket of that briefcase there was my wallet, and it contained close to $400 in cash. I reminded the sheriff to make sure that nothing gets lost, you know, and he reassured me. Then I was being taken to the southwestern jail, there in Shediac, the provincial jail. And when I arrived there at the admission, I asked again, where is my briefcase and with the court files and my wallet? And I was being told it came with the prison van and they would take care of it. Now, when I was being released on the 23rd of September, in the late afternoon, they wanted me to sign a release form. I said, I don't have my glasses here, you know. I cannot read what I'm signing. Yeah, then we won't let you out, you know. So I signed with a waiver. And they wanted to kick me out the back door. In prison clothing, 25 miles away from home, no money, nothing. But several of my friends were so gracious to appear that afternoon in court to support me. They had arranged that one of the friends stayed back and took me back to Shediac to the jail. And to pick up my clothing and to pick up my belongings. They gave me my clothing, and when I asked where is my briefcase and my wallet, the answer was real rude: we don't have no F. The F word, wallet and briefcase, or briefcase and wallet, you know. So I reminded the guard, I said, I'm not in your custody anymore. You're talking to a member of the public, and that language is unbecoming. You as a government employee to treat a member of the public in this kind of a way, you know. So my friend took me home, and the next morning I phoned up the Minister of Public Safety office in Fredericton. The jail is operating under his auspices, and I reported about my briefcase and my wallet missing. And about 2 hours later, a gentleman from that office phoned me back, and he said, we located the missing items there in Shediac at the jail. So I asked if I can pick them up at the front entrance. And I was being told, no, you have to pick them up at the rear entrance at the admitting, you know. I didn't, in the meantime, my car had been towed from the parking lot of the provincial court in Moncton. When I was in jail, I'd requested a phone call to be made to a friend to pick up my car, you know. And that phone call was refused to me. The only phone call I was being allowed for one neighbor to come here and let my dog out of the house. So they felt so kind to take my dog over to their place, you know, and kept him there for the next few days. And I'd requested a phone call to talk to a lawyer. That was refused by the office staff, by the prison staff. And I'd requested a phone call to another friend to at least once a day check on the cattle that were in the pasture. It all was being refused by the prison staff, you know. But anyway, on Wednesday, my car, in the meantime, it had been towed away by dynamic towing, and it had accumulated $260 in towing charges and storage charges, you know. When I recovered my briefcase and my wallet, there were $320 missing out of my wallet. When on Wednesday, a neighbor, he had to go to Moncton, so I had to hitch a ride with him, and then I went down to the courthouse. I went to the judge's office, asked for the court transcripts, the CDs. Then I went to the sheriff's office and asked to talk to the sheriff. And I was being told he was in a conference and he could not talk to me. And then 3 of the deputy sheriffs, they came, and in a real hostile and threatening way they surrounded me. And they said to me, Werner, we want to talk to you. I said, I got nothing to say to you. We might talk later on in court. And that basically it looked to me, if I would have made any kind of move, they would have pounced on me, you know, and then cook up their own stories afterwards. But I didn't give them the satisfaction, and one fellow, a blonde fellow, he was very persistent. When I have to talk to you. I said, I got nothing to say to you. I came here to see your boss, you know. And then in the afternoon, my neighbor, he took me to the prison. And we were left waiting about for 3/4 of an hour. It was pouring rain. And incidentally, the speakerphone there in the yard, it was in the lowest part of the yard, where all the rainwater was gathering about 3 inches high. You know, in order to phone inside. So they, after about 3/4 of an hour, they were so gracious to open the back door and let us in. And I said to the neighbor, come with me. As soon as I'm inside, anything is possible. You know, afterwards I can cook up a story, be a witness there. So he came with me. And those 2 jail guards, they said, yeah, we got your briefcase and your wallet here. I said, I have to see if everything is there about the briefcase. I have to check that home because that there are no important files are missing. And I immediately counted the money in the wallet, and I informed them that about $320 were missing, you know. And basically, real rude, that's basically, it wasn't their business. I said, it is your business. It was in your custody, between you and the provincial courthouse in Moncton, you know. So next few days, I phoned up the RCMP in Shediac and filed a complaint about money being stolen. I said it's between Shediac and courthouse in Moncton, and I filed the same kind of a complaint, theft complaint with the Kodiak RCMP. And to no avail. Then about a few weeks later I got a phone call from a fellow who claimed that he was from above Fredericton, Woodstock RCMP, that he was looking into the missing money. You know, give me the runaround. What's that all about? It happened in the jurisdiction, between the jurisdiction of Moncton, of the Kodiak RCMP, and the Shediac RCMP. I have nothing to do with the Woodstock RCMP. But that's the long proven way how they deal in order to give you the runaround until you finally give up. You know? And I think it's outright disgusting. Those punks in the courthouse, those sheriffs and those prison guards, that they don't have any honor, stealing from a senior who has to live on $550 a month, stealing that much money from him. If they had any honor, they would have pitched together. And everyone, I said that there a week and a half ago, when I was in Fredericton, at the Minister of Public Safety's office, and I spoke to one of the gentlemen there. I said, if they had any honor, they would collect everyone $5, and the problem would be out of the way, and their honor is restored. You know? The first time I there, between the 19th of September and the 23rd of September, I spent 4 days, roughly about 4 days in jail, and that was again illegal. I was being taken to jail on Thursday afternoon. There was plenty of time before Saturday for me to take me to a psychiatrist. You know, there was no need, and it under the provincial statute, was illegal to retain me for 4 days. No, for nearly for over 90 hours, roughly about 96 hours. It was illegal. Again, the judge broke the law, and then there were several other conditions under the Provincial Procedures Act. I wrote them down in the affidavit, that the judge broke. There were at least 3 different statutes under the Provincial Procedures Act 110 he broke. And then the Crown Prosecutor, he couldn't even get his numbers straight. A couple times he said 1010 of the Provincial Procedures Act. One should expect that the Crown Prosecutor knows his trade, and that he does his homework before he steps out there and tries to do some grandstanding and try to basically, the Crown Prosecutor always gets his man. They have to be held accountable.
On what happened in the courts as far as what did the judge order after you were released?
That I should see a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was supposed to be Dr. Tair. The next few days I contacted Dr. Tair's office, and I requested, in the meantime they changed 3 times the appointment date, from the 23rd, from the 22nd to the 23rd of November, then back to the 22nd of November, and I phoned up the Dr. Tair's office, and I spoke to the lady in the office, and I said, I request that this interview or session be recorded, because Dr. Tair, he becomes a witness for the Crown, and I'm self-representing, and I have the right to cross-examine any kind of a Crown witness, and that there are no misunderstandings. I request that this being recorded, and I was being informed that it needed the permission of the court. So I phoned up at the court's office, and I was being told it is up to the psychiatrist. But anyway, I attended the appointment at Dr. Tair's office. I was accompanied by Miss Judy Day as my patient advocate, and I requested from Dr. Tair to have the session recorded, and he basically refused it, and he started turn around, walk back to his office. So I requested that my patient advocate would be present, and I pointed out to him about the legal situation, that he was a part in that court trial as a witness to the Crown, and I had the right to question any witness of the Crown, And anyway, when he refused that, then I requested that Miss Judy Day would accompany me. It again was refused. Then Mrs. Day approached him and asked again to be present as my patient advocate. It was refused. So I fulfilled my requirement. I attended the ordered appointment with Dr. Tair, and the onus was on him. He didn't fulfill his requirement. And there is this loophole in the, I don't know if it even got a foundation in the law, basically the word of the psychiatrist nowadays is basically rated higher than the word of the Almighty, And I think it's high time, and I'm networking with people right across the continent and in Europe, and what I hear is horror stories about those psychiatric horse for hire, what they do to people, and it might be worthwhile for people to look into a psychiatry industry of death. It's the most phony profession that ever existed, and they have inflicted so much harm on so many people. They have to be held accountable, and there is no accountability when their word only counts. Well, when I was ordered to appear again on the 28th of November in court, the judge basically decided that I did not fulfill his requirement, and he completely ignored that I attended the appointment, but it was not my fault when Dr. Tahir did not want to do that session, you know. And then my friend Judy, she said, basically, I know a psychiatrist, he lives in Fredericton, she knew him from Newfoundland, and she said he's a pretty fair guy, you know. I want to arrange an appointment with him, you know. And then, but it didn't work out, because she found out he was in the employment of the provincial government, I think under addiction services. And his contract did not allow him to take on a private client, you know. So then the next time I was supposed to, I appeared in court on the 3rd of December, and it was being explained to the judge. But suddenly, when I couldn't arrange anything on short notice, that was my fault. But when the Crown prosecutor on the 19th of September couldn't arrange a psychiatrist, that was quite all right. They have a lot more resources at their disposal than I am as a private person, you know. So they let me stew for 4 days in jail. Never went to, never had a psychiatrist there, and followed up the by Judge Sweet ordered psychiatric examination, and that was quite all right. And Judge Sweet never blinked an eye about it. And he claimed ignorance when he asked me on the 23rd of September, when I was being brought back in court, if I had seen a psychiatrist. You know, this is unbelievable. Different, as I say, different strokes for different folks. When they want to go with a fine-tooth comb about everybody else, but when it comes to their own, you know, they don't even use a comb, you know. They leave the lice all in the hair. When I was a day and a half later, after I'd been taken into custody and put back into Shediac in the jail, a day and a half later, in the evening, I was being taken to the mental health office there on Albert Street, and I was interviewed by Dr. Akin Mokun, a young black lady from Africa, for about 3/4 of an hour, and I was being taken there by two guards from the Shediac jail, and one of the young guards, I had spoken to him earlier in the day, and I explained to him the situation I've encountered there, you know, and gave him information where he could verify what I was saying, you know, about the publication on the internet and so on. And while I was being interviewed by Dr. Akin Mokun, the two jail guards, they were in the adjoining room, you know, separated by a one-way mirror, and every so often this young fellow, he came around the corner and he gave me thumbs up, because they heard what I was explaining to Dr. Akin Mokun, you know, and it wasn't nonsense, you know. And at the end of the interview, I even praised Dr. Akin Mokun, because I said, you know, you seem to be a welcome exception to the psychiatrists I've encountered before, you know. And what a surprise did I get then on the 6th of December, when I was being brought into court, and the judge presented Mr. Hughes, the lawyer, who in his own free will had been supporting me, he was again there, and the judge gave him the assessment by Dr. Akin Mokon. And so the judge took a recess and gave me time and Mr. Hughes to so I could read this assessment, and I just was shaking my head, you know. That lady, she had basically made a 180-degree turnaround, and she cooked up her own stories, and I pointed that out to Mr. Hughes, and I said at least 1/3 of it is in her own imagination. I don't know where she got it from, you know. And then when the judge came back in, I said to the judge, at least 1/3 of this in this assessment, it's nonsense. It's in our own imagination, and it can be proven right from the evidence folder Your Honor are in possession of, and the Crown prosecutor is in possession of. And I request that this assessment is being thrown out. It's a piece of garbage, basically, you know. And then during the Crown prosecutor, he mentioned again about my mental health record. So I basically took the bull by the horn, and I asked the judge to admonish the Crown prosecutor that he never mentioned my mental health record again unless he produces it in court. You know, I said I've been trying for the last 38 years to see my mental health record, and it was being refused time and time again, you know. And if he doesn't produce it in court, it's called hearsay. You know, it's not admissible in court. And if he produces it in court now, then I request that the whole case be dismissed because the Crown failed to provide full disclosure in reasonable time before the trial. You know, those are the basic rules of court. You know, and that basically saved me from being locked up for the next 6 months up there in Restigouche at the forensic psychiatric facility, you know. And anyway, the decision of the judge was to basically contact the mental health clinic. I went to Dr. Akin Mokun's office on Main Street there. It's at Mall. And I gave to her secretary, I gave the documentary Farmer's Ordeal, and with the advice to give it to Dr. Akin Mokun, that she could do her homework, you know, and not basically don't come half prepared into any kind of a session and then make up her own story. And this was my whole purpose about having sessions with a psychiatrist, having them recorded, you know, to provide some security for me, you know, because people have the tendency to lie. And this way, when it is recorded, you know, there's evidence there, and eventually when any kind of a professional basically cooks up stories, it basically there are basically ways to deal with it in the judicial system, you know, and eventually disciplinary proceedings against those professionals. When I delivered that DVD to Dr. Akin Mokun's office, they have access. I got a mailbox, I got a telephone. If they want to see me, there's a telephone, they can send me an email. You got my email address, it's all on record, you know. So if they want to see me, they can see me, you know. And they can leave me a message and that they want to see me. So far, I haven't heard a peep from any one of them, neither from the court nor from the psychiatrist. And
what's the date today?
Huh?
May 10th.
May 10th, and a few days ago, but yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was at the court, and again I delivered the CD, the DVD, Farmer's Deal, in care of Judge Troy Sweet. There is evidence of crimes that have been committed. He had first received the CD Farmer's Ordeal in January of 2013, and I have the receipt from the court's office. One should expect that a judge, an accounts prosecutor, involved in this case that can be so important to a person's life that they do their homework. They're getting enough paid for it. The next court date is on the 19th of June. Now we got, as you said, the 10th of May, you know. And as I say, this ordering a psychiatric assessment is not based on the facts. You know, it's basically abuse of provincial statutes. You know, and they've broken so many rules all along and laws all along, showing this whole trial ordeal. You know, some heads should roll. I don't know. I don't mean figuratively, but symbolically. Somebody has to be held accountable. And what I have enough evidence. There's not just only one person. There are quite a few persons in provincial provincial services, in the judicial system, that should be held accountable. There should be consequences for them, professional consequences, and legal consequences for them. But I guess I don't hold my breath. In 1975, I refused to accept the Canadian citizenship unless I saw the Canadian justice system working. And what I have seen over the last 38 years, the Canadian justice system is one of the biggest basket cases I've ever heard about. There last week on Saturday, we had a meeting about the Crownland policy of the provincial government, where for many decades they have been handing out the goodies of what belonged to the people, to the big companies at the forefront of the urban empire. And one of the speakers and one of the investigators about this financial wrongdoings was a fellow by the name Don Bowser. He worked for years for an international organization with headquarters at St. Mary's University in Nova Scotia, looking into corruption worldwide. And basically what he said at that meeting, he said when he came back to New Brunswick, he had investigated, him and his team had investigated corruption in the Eastern European countries, in Russia, in Ukraine, in some of the developing countries, but he said basically New Brunswick gets a cake. You know, when it comes to government corruption. As I say, what I'm saying here, I put myself even deeper into the sting nettles, but I don't give a damn anymore. You know, if there shall be any kind of a future for the people of this province, for the young people, you know, then people have to start growing some backbone and start speaking out and get the dirtbags out of the system. Years ago on the CBC they were talking sometimes, oh yeah, the cream rises always to the top. But I counted, I said, if you fellas ever had ever milked cows in their life, you know when you pour the milk out into the pail or so, you know, you will see. Once the cream settles at the top, above the cream there is a light scum and the dirt that's floating on top of over top of the cream.